Welcome to Beyond the Pulse, your new go-to podcast where education meets entertainment through the lens of sports science. We are your hosts, Simon and Nikolai, and every episode we will dive together deep into the fascinating world of sports psychology, mental and physical health, and the cutting-edge science that is shaping the future of athletes.
Whether you're a professional athlete, aiming for your peak, or a coach nurturing the next generation of stars, or just a sports enthusiast eager to understand what happens behind the scenes, this podcast is for you. Our goal is to empower you with the insights and the knowledge to enhance performance, well-being, and the love for sport.
Together, we will explore topics like the psychology of winning, the impact of mental health on physical performance, and innovative training techniques that are revolutionizing how athletes train and recover. Expect to hear from leading experts, seasoned coaches and entrepreneurs, and athletes themselves, actually, shaping stories and strategies that inspire and nurture their development.
We made it. This is our first episode, and what a time it has been. We are so excited for this upcoming series, and we've been looking at doing this for a while now, and it's finally come to fruition. So Simon, tell the audience about yourself.
Yes, and then you'll go. I don't want to be alone here.
I'll go after.
Yes, so I used to be a professional football player a long time ago. I traveled a lot in my life. Went from multiple countries, moving here and around for my studies, for my athletic career. So I went through a lot, physically, mentally, and that's basically the reason why we met later on. But I used to be a professional football player, as I said, and football is my life. Always. It has been since the beginning. Started 4 years old. Imagine, academy, you come in with players and you're probably 30 in a bus going to another location, and you're 4 years old, and it's kind of scary, you know. But that's basically how I started growing as a player. And then
you started as a striker, right?
I started more as a right wing. Yeah, and then over time I realized that I preferred more the defensive part. So I went back to right back. That's basically how I started.
Right back on the bench.
I started on the bench, actually. I started on the bench. For a long time I was a sub, and I really remember this moment when we had such an important game, and our right back, the main player, actually didn't show up. So it was my opportunity to shine, and I really remember this game because that's basically how my career completely switched. And I played so well. I had such a big. I was so focused. I was really in this flow state. We'll talk about it in other episodes, but I was into this flow state, and I was like, it's my time. I need to do this now. And I played so well that I became the main right back later. And then I made it to the national team. So I went through a lot. And over my career, you know, I also studied. I have a background in business myself. I did a bachelor in business in France. And then I moved to the Netherlands here in Amsterdam when we met each other later on. But we'll talk about it. And I did my master's in entrepreneurship. So I have more of a business background while still having this, you know, this athletic background. So football was my main thing, but I faced a lot of issues. You probably face the same because we talk about it a lot. You know, like team environment problems. Sometimes mentally it's very tough to be and stay at the top. So I faced a lot of physical performance issues, mental performance issues. And then over time, especially during my master's, it was a very research-oriented entrepreneurship master's. And I really wanted to go into the details and try to solve problems that athletes are facing. So I started digging into the research, academic papers, looking at how we monitor players, we monitor athletes. And I really noticed that something is lacking. Something is lacking because what we see today in sports, what I faced in my life as a football player, is that it's all about train more, push more in training, more hours is gonna get you to the top. But football has changed, sport has changed. It's not about pushing more. Of course, you know this quote, less is more, and that's basically it. In sport, it's not about just pushing more, it's about being smart about your physical abilities, mental abilities, being able to perform at your best when you're struggling. So I wanted to bring something better to athlete monitoring. We will talk about what we do today, but that's basically my story. And then funny story to the audience as well. I was looking for an apartment in Amsterdam, and that's basically how we met. We were part of a flat viewing, and then we started talking to each other. At this moment, I was basically the only one within Pulse trying to go here and there and do something out of Pulse. And then I met Nikolai, and what a coincidence. He was a sports scientist, and exactly the type of people that I was looking to. And when we met, we instantly clicked. He was really interested. And then he started just by exchanging numbers and ended up being something that we are doing already for 2 years.
Yeah.
So the ball is in your court as a tennis player now.
Thank you. Yes, so as a tennis player, but also as a sports fan in general. I'm originally from Bulgaria, but we moved at a young age and I grew up in South Africa. In South Africa, I really enjoy how athletes are raised in a way. Everyone goes to school and then everyone plays every sport growing up. And we have teams from the first team all the way from A, B, C, D, E to K in cricket and rugby and hockey. We used to play tennis and football as well. And so I really enjoyed this way of growing up playing sports. It's been a part of my life since I can remember. I always wanted to be the best in every sport, and that's not always possible. So you have to take with the ups and the downs that sport gives you and throws at you. On the converse side of that, I was also very enthusiastic with academics. I was always very interested in the medical field, in the science field, and growing up I wanted to be a physician. Then my tennis career kind of took off. At a young age I was playing under 12, under 14, I was good, but I had a flow state switch, like you said, when an opportunity came around and I played the Junior Nike, got a wild card into the tournament. And for fans who don't know, this is one of the most prestigious young tournaments as a kid, and you represent your country. And I happened to win that tournament after almost not making it into the qualification. And this was a huge step in my confidence, in general, in my belief that tennis is something I want to pursue. And I'd also just switched coaches at the time, and so he was really inspiring to me to keep pushing, and started to play some international tournaments. Got to number 1 in the country for 2 or 3 years, kind of like Roger Federer, if you know what I mean.
The South African one.
Just well, Federer is half South African. You know? Yeah, his mom is South African.
Interesting.
Yeah, and his dad's Swiss. But you know, Europe is a bit of a stronger region than African, so that makes sense why he pursued this path. But anyway, so I played a lot of junior ITF, played a lot of tournaments, did some really good things in my tennis life, and then there was actually a period where I was about to quit school, and some of my friends back home know that this was a very critical period where it was either quit school at 16 and do homeschooling, or continue and probably not have the benefits as a professional as you would expect. And we decided to stay in school with my family. It was still a very early age to completely leave school. And also when you're in South Africa in a small city, there's not that much opportunity and resources to get to that next level. And sometimes you need a bit of luck as well. The right people around you, exactly part of this environment. I also had a lot of injuries growing up as a kid. I think that's when you don't have the type of people as a role model or someone to guide you along the process, it's very difficult to figure it out by yourself. And I also experienced this train more to improve without looking at mental aspects, without making sure that the environment was sustainable. So a lot of these types of things that we are now wanting to do with Pulse has always been an underlying, let's say, like a drawback in my life. And then I went to America for university, played Division I college tennis there. Was up and down for sure. I got lucky enough to play all through the ranks, so from bench to 6th to 5th to 4th, all the way up to number 1. I think it would have been a lot more beneficial for me if I'd been a lot more consistent. But again, I faced so many injuries that you have a 3-week injury, a 2-month injury, you come back, you start to get some form again, and then you happens again. So re-injuries was common. We had a lot of also team environment, team spirit problems, something that is, I think, very underlooked and underappreciated still in sport today. I think, if you think of anything with a strong team, there's a strong foundation, builds forward, and you can move and push further together.
Yeah.
But when there's a little bit of discrepancy between goals, aligning of goals, confidence within, and the dynamics between the group is a little bit broken, it's a bit difficult to really get to that next phase. And so I experienced a lot of these problems as an athlete myself. I had a lot of, I wouldn't say mental health problems, but definitely some underlying brewing. The pot was brewing with issues which was difficult to express.
Yeah.
I think only in recent times it's become a lot more available to talk about and actually encouraged. And this is something which I think, had I known at a younger age in my youth development, especially as a tennis player, I think that critical jump from junior to senior player, from boy tennis to men's tennis, is all mental. Of course, you grow physically into that adaptation, but that mental part can already be established as a kid, and this is not nearly looked at enough.
Yeah.
And so this is why when we met, your friend came to do the viewing, and you were with him, and we started to talk about kind of athletics and sport, and we immediately found this mutual connection.
And just to cut you a little bit, how did you even come to Amsterdam? So you went from the US straight to Amsterdam?
Yeah, so actually the back end of my time as a tennis player, my back end of actually COVID hit in 2020, and our season got cut short, and I was just starting to really fall in love with the game again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had fallen out of love with it for a couple of years, and it was a very difficult time, and I think we'll talk about it later as well, but you know how this mental load gets too much and that completely deteriorates performance. So I was very unsatisfied with my tennis at the time, fell out of love with it, and only when it was too late did I realize how much I enjoyed it. Then I went to go work in New York for about a year, and some issues with visa, let's say. I wish it would have been different, but now looking back, it's not such a bad thing that happened. And so I decided to take a next step. Also, growing up in a small city in South Africa, I wanted to still appreciate the large cities that are available in the world. And I love traveling and exploring. And I think coming back to Europe as a Bulgarian citizen was also a great thing for me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this. And I think Amsterdam is a very welcoming country in general. I don't speak many other European languages, unfortunately, so Dutch is similar to Afrikaans, as well as there's a very strong English population here. So I think it was a bit of a multiple factorial element to make it to Amsterdam. And yeah, now I'm here. Did my
and you were
master's.
studying, right?
Yeah, so I'm about to finish my master's in human movement science and track and sports and performance psychology. Very interesting stuff. What I really appreciate about the program is that you can look into a lot of different elements of movement science, but you can call it sports science as well. There's rehabilitation, there's biomechanics, there's a little bit of engineering, there's a little bit of coaching, and like I said, some psychology is involved. And I have a neuroscience background as well, so these types of elements together came really nicely, and I love sport too much to walk away from it. So when we met and started to speak about Pulse, it was just a match made in heaven, you could say. Yeah.
Nice
Without sounding a bit weird. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think now it's nice to recall the story sometime. But maybe for the audience, we can tell them a little bit about now what we do.
Yeah.
Before diving into the topic, we're gonna discuss together about holistic performance today, and why is it so important to understand the environment the athlete is in to prevent injuries, to monitor performance. But before going to that, maybe we can talk about Pulse, right?
Yeah.
And our goal is to redefine athlete health and performance optimization. And maybe to quickly give an introduction of the problems we're trying to solve is the main problem that we've seen as athletes, that we realized through the research we've done and through the 100+ people we've spoken to, is the lack of holistic monitoring. So we said earlier, right, it's all about physical performance today. We monitor in multiple sports, right? We look at the speed of an athlete, we look at deceleration, acceleration, we look at, in football, how many goals they score, and in tennis, whether they win points or not, right? To us, it looks very superficial. it looks like almost a linear process. So we start from physical health and we try to understand performance. We try to prevent injuries out of this. But there is this new type of research that looks at the holistic approach, and this holistic approach suggests that in order to really understand performance, to really monitor it the right way, you might want to have a look at other elements, have a broader perspective. And this broader perspective looks also at obviously physical health, because it is important as an athlete, but also the intersection of physical health with mental health and with the environment of the athlete. And by environment, we mean, right, the relationship with their coaches, the relationship with their families, their personal stress on the daily life. So there's, it's this holistic approach tries to look at everything around the athlete to be able to monitor their performance the right way and provide coaches and athletes with the right decision to take to get to their point.
It's also that we can integrate all these elements together. It's not that you do performance because you do everything correctly. It's also to know and raise awareness as to why things are going well, why things are not going well. Because in every athlete's life, as in normal people as well, there's going to be ups and downs, and it's very important to be able to cope with them the right way, so that it doesn't get you too far down or to get you too far up. So there's always this wave of up and down, and I think if you're able to monitor this holistic way, this overall integration between the environment, between your mental, your physical health, how you eat, sleep, etc. These are all elements in life. Maybe it's like a healthy life, providing good habits for yourself. And what we noticed is that most tools today that assist athletes with this is physical related, mental related, but there's no integration of this holistic idea. A lot of this is from the human touch as well. So sometimes coaches will say, "Oh yes, you're right," when you talk about holistic approach, when you talk about monitoring the athlete's environment, making sure that everything around the athlete is sustainable as well, is flourishing. But it's difficult to track this. You don't know unless it's too late. You have to wait for a crisis to occur or something to really. The red flag needs to occur for something to happen. So Pulse is a little bit about this, solving these types of problems where we would like to reduce the risks of injury, monitoring the physical health, the mental health, the environment, making sure that the athlete has good habits so that we can then enhance the performance. You can only enhance performance through a good physical condition, a good mental state, good social support structure. So all these elements play together really well to get this holistic approach.
So basically that's what we try to do, right? We try to simultaneously monitor physical health, mental health, and the team environment or the environment of the athlete, and really understanding the correlation between these. Because, I don't know, we can give one example. Maybe your nutrition might not affect you as much as it might affect me, my physical performance. So a lot of the metrics that are monitored today are very personalized. They impact people in a different way. So we also try to be very personal. We try to provide this tool so that it fits each athlete, each individual athlete. So we do monitor all these together, and we do that by using software and hardware, right? So we have, now we are developing hardware, which are basically sensors. And these sensors are responsible for monitoring GPS, heart rate, but also electromyography, so EMG, which are basically responsible for tracking muscle fatigue, muscle activity in general. So we use this type of sensors to monitor the physical health, and on the other side, our software, which is basically divided into two elements: the app for the players that they use on a daily basis, and the dashboard for the coaches, where they can monitor everything. So the software is responsible for monitoring mental health, monitoring team environment by using sport psychology screening, right? So we provide questionnaires to athletes on a daily basis. With the help of AI, we're able to understand the problems that athletes are facing, and we follow up with questions to try to see how this affects other elements of their life. So we then gather a lot of data, and this data is processed through the AI algorithm, and the outcome is basically providing these personalized recommendation for the coaches on their dashboard and for the players on their mobile app so that they know what to do next if they really want to, again, improve their performance, nurture their development on the long term, prevent or at least reduce the risk of injuries, and boost their mentality. And basically we provide this for professional and elite sports organization, for example, football clubs, tennis academies, but also other sports, right? Because we are applicable to rowing, athletics, hockey,
basketball. Yeah, the great thing about this is that it's based on human performance.
Yeah.
It's not so much about what type of sport specific features you have, but more that you as a human improve your abilities. And I think something that is quite extraordinary what we've done is that we are able to make it into a triggering system, the software.
Right.
That, I mean, you can imagine if you were an athlete or a staff member and you had 50 players to monitor, you would provide 50 questions for the player that would take them so long to answer the questions. Perhaps if it was for 2 weeks, they would be able to keep going with it. But after that, you would lose interest, you'd get bored, you'd get tired, you'd not answer them to your best and honest ability. So what we did was actually think of a way to overcome this, but still get an accuracy in data.
Yeah.
And we did this using the AI and a triggering system. And maybe you can elaborate on the triggering system.
Yeah, good point. Maybe we can talk about one specific example that might happen to an athlete. Let's imagine we realized or we noticed through our monitoring that the athlete has a low sense of belonging within the team.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he or she is struggling with their relationship with coaches. Then what would the AI do on the long term in the coming days and weeks is to ask questions that are more related to this specific matter. So we know, as a matter of fact, right, through science, that if you have a low sense of belonging within the team, obviously it's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect maybe potentially your sleep as well, and it's going to increase your sense of anxiety, your risk of having mental setbacks and mental struggles would be higher. So we try to really focus on this problem. So we notice the red flags, and then we provide follow-up questionnaires for the athletes to fill in. And it's based on that we try to see how this matter, so the lack of belonging, is going to affect sleep, is going to affect nutrition, is going to affect mood. And then we provide this information to the players, because that way then they know, okay, I know as a matter of fact that now I'm having struggle with my team. It might be a good opportunity to talk to the coach, and I know that it is the reason why my sleep is being affected. It is the reason why my mood is that low. So that's one example. We could also give other examples, for example, to talking about maybe recovery. So another example could be, let's imagine the athlete has been training too much, the load is too high. We know through science, again, that if the physical load is too high, it's going to reduce the physical recovery and the emotional recovery of the athletes in the coming days. So we might be asking questions that are more related to active or passive recovery, like sleep, nutrition. So again, the goal is really to notice the red flags and then address these red flags by providing this recommendation to the players and to the coaches instantly.
Yeah. And the great thing about the use of the AI as well is that it's personal. So as you said, nutrition will affect me different to how it affects you, and same goes with this triggering system. So we can see within the app the strongest correlations of what impacts what, and then in that way we can provide this awareness to the coach and to the athlete to use this knowledge to then make it better. And this is something that we've been proud of in our features, and something we will continuously look to upgrade and improve over time.
For sure. I mean, we're very happy with what we did so far, right? We've tested the product with more than 100 athletes. We've launched already 3 different product versions. We are now at the 4th one. We're starting to get right.
It's been unbelievable.
We are starting to get actually good commercial traction. Working with football clubs, working with tennis clubs, and I think now it's really the time for us to start scaling. And we're always looking for new opportunities. We are constantly improving our software. We're constantly improving our AI with the help of our amazing team. And we are always, hunting for clubs that are willing to join our mission. And what I think what is the most what is the thing that makes me the happiest, and this sense of satisfaction comes from the fact that when we talk to clubs and athletes, they understand.
Yeah.
They understand that there is this lack of holistic monitoring in sports. They understand how much benefits they could get by understanding the relationship between mental health, physical health, and the environment.
Yeah. Let's actually touch on this. What are some of the benefits that you think are most useful for, let's say, for the staff? I think for athletes, it's quite clear that if you're able to monitor all these features, then you will likely improve your performance. Your injury risk will reduce, of course. You're able to be more representative of your own way of training and grow independent in a way.
Yeah.
And of course, we know as an athlete and for everyone that once you have your own satisfaction and your own abilities, then you just grow. It's a natural part of life to be self-confident, to be self-efficacious.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Something like this. To increase the sense of sense,
responsibility, accountability, these types of personal factors which grow with reflecting, and to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings, what's happening in your life. And I think this is a huge part of maturity as well, something which I think especially young athletes don't have yet, and this is something we can certainly help with nurturing the development of the youth, and also improving the performance, installing the right type of questions to ask to then be stronger mentally, and to just constantly grow in a upwards trajectory, of course. But for some of the players who have a team around them, how would it benefit the club?
I mean, right, that's a good question, because we work with, we're a B2B solution, right? So we provide this solution to clubs, to athletes, to coaches. So as I said earlier, the athletes will be using the app where where the monitoring happens, where the recommendation are being used and available to them. But we do also have the dashboard used by the coaches. And the goal is that the dashboard is one single source of information that is used by the medical staff, by the sports psychologist, by the physical performance, by the physiotherapist, potentially by the head coach and the managers as well. So we really want to see one central source of information. And most of the benefits, the strongest benefits, the first one that comes to my mind is definitely time saving. Because we monitor a bunch of physical health and mental health metrics, we can really help the staff avoid the coding, avoid using manual data, exporting to Excel sheets and calculating their own metrics. We do calculate this for them. And that way they can really focus on their core job, which is training, which is bringing this human touch to players and helping them improve.
Exactly.
So we give them the information, then it's their decision to use it and do whatever they wish with it. So time saving. Definitely another very important point is connecting the departments. As I said, all these staff members are there, and they are all aligned in one single source of information. Because what we noticed through our research is that if we look at football, for example, a lot of the times a football player will go to, let's say, to a physiotherapist, and he would have, I don't know, you're the sports scientist, you might know what the performance coach would say, but let's say the physiotherapist say that you should probably reduce the load because your muscles are burning out. And then he goes to the head coach, and the head coach says you should push more because we have a Champions League on Saturday, right? So
Champions League on a Saturday? This guy calls himself a professional
right,
football
so
player.
I was going to say league on Saturday and then probably Champions League in the middle of the week. But anyways, this lack of alignment on decision, it's very tough for a player, because he says, okay, in this side you need to push, here you should reduce. So really helping the staff members to be aligned on their decision is going to dramatically increase the team management. And it's going to connect departments.
Yeah, exactly. On the same topic, I think if you're a player and you seek out help, you probably only go to one or two of the staff members. This way it's also able to be within the staff to make sure that there's a strong connection. And I think if the staffing team is close and connected well, morale speaking, then the athlete is most likely to benefit from all the available skills that each staff member can bring.
Right.
So it's also a nice way for the athlete to express vulnerability and get assistance from all of the staff and not just the one. And so it's, of course, what we're doing is, to someone hearing it for the first time, it sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Let's recap the departments that we're trying to enter in, and maybe what we've done to this point to get to where we are. I think this is something.
Maybe one good way of summarizing what Pulse is, let's imagine you are Real Madrid, right? You are a big football club, or even a small one, right? Because we really want to provide also this type of solution and empower smaller clubs, because athlete health matters, whether you're a big club or not.
Yeah.
Let's imagine you're a football club. You are a coach and you're trying to monitor the performance of your players. Then you would come to Pulse. And what we would do is provide you with a solution that would help monitor their mental health, their physical health, and their environment simultaneously.
Okay.
That way, better decision making. That way, coaches know exactly what is happening to the players. They understand their physical performance, their mental performance, and they can help them maximize it.
Mm. Do you think that it's going to be also useful for potential incomings? For example, if you're a football club and let's just make it theoretical that every football player in the league is using Pulse, and I am the scout and I want to look at one player, and I can look at their Pulse score perhaps, or ask the other club if this player's values or state is something that we could look into. Do you think that there's a possibility for us there as well?
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, you said at the beginning, right? We are all about we're all about human performance.
Yeah.
And human performance can be applied in multiple settings. Of course, now we want to focus on elite sports, monitoring the performance and the health of the players with the help of the staff. But there is also the potential to expand later. There is the potential to expand to scouting, as you said, athlete development, also for the youth, really helping academies and youth players develop their abilities. And then also we do have this ambition of expanding to the B2C market later, really providing Pulse to also active people, not necessarily professional players, but also amateurs, people who go to the gym 3 times a week, 1 time a week, and really help them, increase this awareness of health and performance. Because we do like this saying, right? If you have a heart, you're an athlete, and you should be able to monitor your health and your performance, whether you're a pro or not. So we do want to focus on professional now, because we're close to this segment. But we believe that this can help a lot of people in the future, and that is our ambition.
And what do you think are some of the main elements of the holistic approach that maybe some younger athletes don't quite have yet? What are some of we've looked at a lot of research. We are fortunate enough to be connected with one of the leading experts on holistic monitoring or holistic model in the Netherlands, and we've agreed with many of these types of topics that resilience as a youth is crucial, experiencing hardships but then using the right coping mechanisms. Maybe you can share a little bit of how we've dealt through some tough times as a company, but also in our sporting life. And maybe for someone listening who's also been through some difficult periods, how we can encourage them to keep going with the right strategy.
I think we're going to touch upon when we'll start diving into the topic of today. But maybe just to give a short summary to the listeners, we really believe, right, that also through our research, that if you're able to understand how your mental affects your physical health and really have this awareness, it's gonna make a tremendous impact in your daily life. Really being able to understand how your way of thinking affect your behavior, your actions, is always the first step, right? If you know by doing this and this and this, it's going to lead to this, by having a positive way of speaking to yourself, by constantly affirming to yourself that you're great. These type of small strategies can help everybody, professional or not, to improve their physical performance. Because of course, if you're the Ronaldo of today, your physical performance is on top. But you also need to be Ronaldo mentally.
Yes.
And you need to be able to have the right characteristic, personality speaking, mentality speaking, to be on top. And we are going to start discussing now why it is so important to holistically understand your health and your performance as a player, whether professional or not.
I think now's a good time to just briefly mention what the holistic approach is, kind of the variables, so that our audience can be a little bit more familiar with this type of research, what it entails, and perhaps a case study, or maybe not a case study, but a real life scenario in which where it could have been implemented to enhance performance or maybe to reduce some tensions, this kind of thing. So, can you tell me what is your take on holistic approach and what does it mean for you?
I think holistic is a very broad term. We do say we are a holistic health and performance monitoring solution because we try to look at as many variables touching in mental health, physical health, and the environment of the athletes to be able to monitor everything. But we are complex species, right, as humans. We are impacted by so many different things. The weather can impact us so much, but we have zero control over this, right? We don't know if it's going to rain or not, or what. I mean, we can check our app and see whether it's going to happen or not. In the Netherlands, it's always raining, so we should expect this all the time. But there are so many factors that affect humans. That is why I always say that holistic monitoring of health and performance is really broad and very, very complex to do. But we can try to reduce this. We can try to make it as focused as possible by selecting the right metrics. And the right metrics can be, of course, still within these three categories that we monitor: the performance, physically speaking, mentally speaking, and environment. But maybe you can give some examples of, okay, let's have a look at the mental performance. Can you touch upon, I don't know, like 2 or 3 metrics that we monitor and why it is so important?
Yeah, I think just in general, I mean, mood is a big one. If if your mood is bad, that could be a stimulant to then do better. As this warrior mentality. On the converse side of that, if you have poor mood, it could be that you feel a little bit low during a game, or that you're not feeling up for it. Sort of this mental readiness. So mood can be a bad state or a positive state. It just depends on how you react, your behavior to what is happening. And I think monitoring this holistically with other variables is the only way to see what it does for you, because today it could be one thing, tomorrow it could be another. I also think that something like mental toughness or resilience or coping mechanisms is a key element in which it's very difficult to be monitoring on a daily basis. Perhaps if you look at this specifically, you can get an understanding, an idea about it. But again, look at this with something else and the correlation it has to it, especially with injuries or performance. It's a really big thing, and it's important for everyone to have this togetherness of factors which can be helpful or not to you. And you don't know it. And we've done a lot of desirability interviews, a lot of interviews with coaches, with athletes, and there's been a common consensus of, I don't know why I am having a performance plateau. I don't know why I am training so much, yet I'm still not getting better. I'm actually playing worse. So there's a lot of factors which are helpful to enhance performance, but sometimes, as you said earlier today, that less is more. Sometimes you need to work smarter and not harder, although to work hard and smart is the key, of course. But there is this need for variables to come together.
And I think that is the job of the AI, right? To really make it personalized, because you said it's different for each person, and the hardest part is to be able to know what is it for you, what is it for me, what is it for this other athlete. So I think that's how acquiring a lot of data helps with. But there are so many other metrics, right? If we look at, you mentioned some of them for mental health. For team environment, it can be career satisfaction, life satisfaction, relationship with coaches and fellow.
Communication as well.
Communication. Also your personal stress on a daily life with your family. When it comes to physical health, you have the training load, you have internal load, external load, muscle activity, right? So much. Let's not get too much into it, but the goal is for everyone to understand that this holistic approach tries to have an overview, a broad perspective on the athlete health and their performance.
Yeah, we like to think of it like a spider web, right?
Right. Yeah, everything is connected.
Everything's connected. You know, the spider. There's one thing in the middle, and that's, let's say, for this case, performance.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that are outside that each factor can be like a node, and that connects to the middle of the web, in which everything is impacting everything else.
Yeah, maybe we can talk to the listeners about one specific use case.
Yeah.
And the use case we like to talk about is the Dutch hockey team, right? They're great champions, right?
The women's national team,
the
right?
women's national team, exactly. So they're one of the best in the world, right? Probably even the best. And they face some issues that are not related to injuries, but they face issues more on the holistic side. And maybe you can talk about it.
Yeah, so I can't remember exactly the details, but I think it was early when we had just arrived in the Netherlands, but it was a big story. If we speak to a lot of Dutch professionals who are involved in top sport, they're very familiar with the story. There was a case of transgressive behavior, and that basically means a bit of maltreatment in the environment. There was some problems with communication.
So the coaches were kind of abusing the players.
Yeah, we're not sure to what extent, of course, but abuse could be mental, physical, sort of punishing for not performing well or not pushing hard enough in training, for example. So there was a lot of problems within the team, and as you said, they were great champions. I believe they actually won the World Championship.
Right.
And I think I read a story somewhere where they won the championship, and straight after, nobody celebrated, nobody spoke about anything. It was just this feeling of relief that they don't have to be together anymore.
Right.
And this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's not healthy, it's not sustainable. It's a big problem, which is probably everywhere in the world.
Right.
I mean, we look at gymnastics, where this is happening a lot, especially in youth. I mean, a gymnast is already professional at 13 or 14 years old, maybe sooner. Not sure exactly, but this is something in gymnastics. In football, it's very stressful. You can maybe express on it as well when you're a youth player. Instead of focusing on your development to make it at that senior level, you're constantly fighting for survival with 50 other players just to make it into the first 11. You don't know if you'll be released as an academy player or not. So all these types of elements should be brought forward with a strong culture, with a strong environment that whatever happens, it's going to be a supporting environment, a positive, flourishing place for you to thrive.
And I think the beauty of holistic performance monitoring is being able to notice these type of small problems before they become bigger problems, right? It's all about realizing issues or red flags before the big problem happens, before it occurs. And if you're able to do that, you can prevent, right? You can prevent bad behavior, negative environment, and on the long term, you can really nurture the development of the players.
And the development of sport. I mean, this could go all the way up to policy, you know?
Right.
If you were able to help the coaching staff with this, or the environment of the club in general, this will then leak into the organization, which leaks into the federations, which then goes global. And then the whole world is a more safe space for athletes to feel that they're needed and respected. And it goes all the way up and down the chain of command.
Right. Great. Well, this is what the holistic is about, right? It's this complex way of monitoring health and performance. And I think this holistic overview is super useful also outside of sports, right? If you as a person, you're able to holistically reflect on yourself, might be tough to do, but I think if you're able to really see
the big picture,
then you can really make a difference in your daily life. But anyways, bonus topic, right? Let's talk about flow states.
Oh, I love
really like this. What they say, right? What research says is that it's this optimal state of consciousness. You're fully focused. Your feelings and your physical performance, your mental performance, everything is aligned towards your goal.
Right.
And your goal is scoring that goal if you're a football player, winning that point if you're a tennis player.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit?
I think flow state is a very interesting topic. I think still to this day it can't be explained properly and fully, not even by science. I guess there are some physiological parameters where you see that the ventilation rate, the breathing, for example, is very calm. If you look at electrodes on the head, so the EEGs, it's showing quite meditative state, so low activation, so everything is relaxed. You're in this optimal arousal, if you will, this optimal level of performing. So you're in a calm state, you're in a deep immersion state, everything feels like you're just blowing with the wind, So it's a very interesting topic in which I think it's difficult to reach, and it's not something you can train.
Right.
But I think with other variables that you train with, like maybe stress reduction techniques on breathing during a match, for example, if you get a little bit nervous, it's normal, it's good to have. But if you're able to overcome this type of nerve, and I think it's also important that you need to be invested into something.
Right.
You will not reach a flow state if the topic is not interesting.
Yeah.
And in everyday life, they say that time flies when you have fun. That's exactly because you're in this flow state. When runners get this runner's high, it's because they've run a certain amount of time. Everything is at steady, you're at a homeostasis at the moment with your heart rate, your breathing, your strides, everything, like the timing of the universe is aligned.
Yeah, for you to perform.
Yeah.
I felt that when I was playing football in very important moments. And I do actually feel like you can train it, by really redirecting your stress towards the right goal.
Yeah.
I don't know, I really like the science of growth mindset.
Yes.
And I've read some stuff about this, and the recent podcast I listened to was speaking about this, and they were diving into the physical reactions, the physiological reactions that happen when you are under stress, right? They say when you're under stress, your heart is going faster, blood flow is increasing, maybe more activation in your brain, and a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm stressed. I feel stressed about the situation. It's going to be tough. But I think what can help you go into this flow state is telling, okay, maybe my heart is going faster because it's pumping more blood to my organs and my muscles to perform better.
You can trigger it.
It's kind of
mindset.
About the athlete, how you are able to trigger it, to change it, and to really redirect it towards your goal.
Right.
So I do believe you can train it. It's really tough to do because, as you said, science is not really sure about what is the mechanism.
Well, the thing is also, how do you know that you're in the flow state?
Yeah.
Because when you're in the flow state, you're not really thinking about
I think
anything.
you know it after.
Yeah, you realize it after. It's like, who said it from The Office? I wish I knew...
Yeah, from The Office.
What is the quote?
I think it's... I wish I knew when the good time was...
I wish I knew when I was in the good old days before you leave the good old days.
Exactly.
Something like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's exactly the same with flow state. But just on this as well, I read a very interesting book which I recommend to everyone. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics, and the main idea of this is that psycho implying brain, and psychology, and cybernetics, the math and statistics and computer programming, this kind of thing, the coding mechanism. And what they suggest a lot of the time is that humans are very similar in that sense, that if you have a goal and you strive towards it, it's not so much that you need to actively think about that goal, but that you do the right motions. You put the motions in play, and then poetry writes itself. So you have this creative mechanism, this success-seeking mechanism. It's like instinctual. So a polar bear is not thinking of, okay, I need to go to the top of the mountain to find food.
He just does it.
He just goes because that's what he knows.
It's like instinct. It's more the instinct.
Yeah.
That's why flow state is tough to trigger. It's like it's an instinct. It happens when it happens. But maybe you can potentially do some techniques to make it happen when you want. More frequently, potentially. Yeah. So
I actually think a great way to perhaps do this, and you can try this at home as well. If you're an athlete or a coach or anyone really, it's called visualization. And I know you do it often, I do it as well. And in any sort of self-help or stress relieving type of exercise for athletes, especially visualization is crucial. Any top athlete in the world is visualizing multiple times before that event has occurred.
Yeah.
Great example is Michael Phelps, one of the greatest Olympic swimmers ever in the history of sport. I think he's won something ridiculous like 20 gold medals,
Right.
20 plus.
Right.
And he has a great interview where he says he's won that race already 100 times or 1,000 times, I can't remember exactly, but he's swam that race so many times before and creating different types of circumstances. So
Yeah.
jumping late into the pool,
Yeah.
goggles falling off,
But
congestion
he
while
swam
swimming.
it in his head.
He swam it in his head before.
Right, yes.
So this is very interesting actually, because in neuroscience, these types of networks that occur with firing of action potentials, so you're already creating this muscle reflex, if you will,
Right.
in the brain. So if you visualize successful thoughts, if you're visualizing achieving your goals, planning out your day, and do it multiple times, when you actually get into the real world to do it, you're already with some sort of experience.
Your brain will be like, okay, I'm just going to do it again.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I also think that a lot of youth athletes don't train enough mental toughness in that sense, because they experience things for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes, Brad Gilbert, former tennis player, has a book called Winning Ugly, and it's not about how well you play on the day, just that you can bring all these elements to then just beat your opponent.
Right.
I mean, it's like the typical Real Madrid and Champions League.
Yeah, yeah.
There's this visualization that they win no matter what. I mean, they just beat Man City on penalties
Crazy game.
when they should have lost at 70% possession for City in 120 minutes. It's crazy. So there's this feeling of staying calm.
Right.
There's this flow state, and then there's this confidence in doing what you do best, and that's just be.
Yeah.
Just make mistakes, and you gain it from experience anyway.
Right.
So
Right.
there's never a wrong thing to do when you just go out there and do your best, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we can keep going all day.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna get people tired of us. At least yet. It's just the first episode, right?
Let's go.
The game is build your own athlete.
Yeah.
We'll give each other a few characteristics, and we have 5 seconds to pick the best player for
Okay.
that, and then that will be our unique best player.
Okay.
Number 1, speed.
Usain Bolt. You?
Bale.
Gareth Bale?
Yes.
Oof. Okay.
Good one, right? Next, mental toughness.
Rafa Nadal.
Right. Ronaldo, obviously.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
Third one, endurance.
Endurance? David Goggins. It's got to be David Goggins.
Right, sure. I think I would go for Eliud Kipchoge. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, he's a world
marathon under
champion,
2 hours.
Yeah.
Good luck catching up. And fourth, intelligence. And by intelligence, I mean game intelligence,
Game
ability
intelligence.
to understand opponents' game,
Yeah.
strategy.
Okay. I think I might have to go with Lionel Messi.
Right,
I think his ability to disappear and then reappear in the key moments is
right,
extraordinary.
great. Then I would say Iniesta. I mean, I could also say Busquets or Xavi because they're really able to understand the game
Yeah.
and easily travel with the ball from defense to offense. So I would definitely go for him. Last one, clutch player. And by clutch player, we mean this player that is able to make a difference.
Right.
The right moment, maybe last minute of a game, able to score
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, so for those that don't know what a clutch player is, there's a famous tennis commentator who says that big time players pull out big time plays in big time moments. So, for you?
Tough one, no? I would go for... He's not really an athlete. He was more of a coach, so I would go for Ferguson.
Sir Alex
because-
Ferguson?
Yes, of course. I think he made a big difference into sports.
Yeah, I think my whole childhood was plagued and it lives rent-free in my head. Fergie time. As a Liverpool fan, Fergie time was
Right.
the worst thing for me. And for me, clutch player, I think I'm going to go for Novak Djokovic. He's won multiple Grand Slams when he's been championship point down, and the guy is just unbelievable. He's a conqueror. He's an emperor. That mentality is unlike anything when you need it the most. So, for me, Novak Djokovic.
All right, great game. Hopefully, more games to come in the next episodes.
Yes.
All right, thank you for being part of the first episode of Beyond the Pulse. We are very happy to have delved together into the complex world of sports. So much more to come. So, thanks for being here today.
Yes. Follow us on your preferred platforms and stay tuned for next episode where we have a very special guest who is involved in holistic monitoring. And we are very excited to have this person, and we hope that you enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.